On today's show, we review a custom LED and button box by Layne Sim Products. Welcome to Inside Sim Racing. I'm Sean Cole, and today I'm here to review another button box that's come onto the market. This is from a brand new company, and that is Layne Sim Products. And Richard Falkenberg is the owner of Layne Sim Products, and I met him in Dallas at the iRace for Life, and at that point I knew he was up to something good. So he's now got things fully operational, and I have one of his new custom button boxes. They currently sell a few different models that have slightly different configurations. These boxes range in price from $110 to $120, and they also sell a couple different button boxes that include lights in the design as well. There are two different models of those, and they go for $260 or $265. In addition to those pre-laid out boxes, they also make custom boxes I mentioned, and that's what I have here. And when I say custom, that means that I got to completely choose the layout of the design. I've got the model that has both buttons, switches, lights, the works thrown into this one, and I was able to tell Richard exactly how I wanted it laid out. The custom light and button boxes allow for up to 26 inputs, which are the buttons or switches, and 16 LEDs. You don't have to use them all, but for my design, I would need all but two, but I made room for those as well to be able to map them later. For me, I spend most of my free time running in iRacing, so I'm going to make a layout specific to that. It will also work fine in rFactor or other sims, but each sim does have slightly different input and output abilities. Now, if you're going to order any of the pre-done layouts, you can just go to the website and order any of those and they'll be on the way. Now, if you're going to do the custom version, it's a little bit different. What you need to do is you go in and you order a custom button box. That enables you the ability to download the templates so that you can start working on your own layout. And one of the first choices you have to make is whether you're going to use the layout that is vertically or going up and down, or horizontal, where the box will be turned this way, going left to right. So now that you have the templates open, you've got the template and you have a legend. The legend is telling you all the different options, and that could be switches that go up and down, that could be switches that go left to right, that could be switches that just go up or down. You've got colored buttons, colored lights. The next thing you need to do is decide where you want them all. Now, when choosing your design, there are a few things to really think about in advance. Like I said, I'm going to set mine up for iRacing, and I'm going to be using a tack bar going across showing my RPM. I'm then going to be assigning these lights to being flag indicators like yellow flag, white flag, black flag, etc. And then I've got two more that are going to be water and oil temperature. Now, controlling the LEDs, or the heart of this button box as far as the lights are concerned, are made by Sim Projects, and that's controlled by both their hardware and their software. So despite me setting this up the way I want, it is configurable. I could even within iRacing change this. I don't need it to be rev bars. I mean, once I've picked certain colors, they'll always be those colors, but I can always change later what I want each thing to actually be in the sim. And then, like I mentioned, rFactor, other sims, they all have slightly different inputs and outputs. In rFactor, I could make this light tell me that the headlights are on or off. So you really have a lot of options once you get into the software. Now, getting back to the design, I've had a lot of button boxes, and I had a good idea what I wanted out of this one in particular, especially in iRacing. So like I mentioned, I went ahead and cut and pasted LEDs and mounted them to the top of my layout. And I went 3 green LEDs, followed by 3 yellow, followed by 3 red, which is a very typical RPM bar, tack bar, whatever you want to call it. And then I selected different colors for each light based on what I knew I wanted to do most of the time. Like I said, I can change them later, but that's how I want this laid out for the most part. Now, in iRacing, anyone familiar knows the function buttons, the F1 through F8 buttons. And I have all these straight down a line, very easy for me to remember exactly what each button does. I don't even have to look at it. I don't even have to label them in this case. It's so easy to remember because of the color differences that I've selected and the layout. I have a button here that's protected for my pit limiter. This button I don't even need, but I have it mapped to my ignition, and that's just anybody who sims knows that's kind of fun to have. You can do things like have volume adjustments that would be your chat or your spotter volumes. And I basically predetermined every button on this layout and I made them the proper color so that it would be easy for me to remember. And that's the beauty of making a custom box is I laid it out for me. I knew before it even got here what each button did, and that's sort of dynamic. So this is the way I did my box design. Ultimately, I was limited to 16 LEDs and 26 inputs. A button like this is 1 input. A switch that goes up and down is 2 inputs. And then a switch like this that goes one way is only 1 input. So once I had the template all figured out, I sent it back to Layne Sim Products, and they then sent me a very professional version of my layout because mine weren't perfectly centered. And that confirmed, are these the colors you want? Is this the position you want? And as soon as I said yes, it was being built. And this is one cool thing about Layne Sim Products. A couple days later, I get a picture, and it's my box actually being constructed. Talk about tease. I'm getting pictures of this cool red carbon look, all these buttons starting to be in place. Not even the back of the box on it yet. And then a few days later, I get another couple pictures showing it like near completion. And you'd think that'd be enough. No, another couple days later, I actually get a link to a video of my box being tested by them before being packaged in bubble wrap, put in a box, and sent on its way to me. That's the kind of stuff that makes you really appreciate the work that goes into making these things. Now, when it did arrive, not only did the box come, but he actually sent me his mount. I didn't actually order the mount, I just ordered the box. So the box came with some double stick Velcro that you could pretty much mount it to anything, and you can see how well it's on. I just stuck it to one piece of profile and it's going nowhere. You could use that same Velcro to put it on his mount, and he wasn't sure if I was going to need the mount or not. But you could see it's a very nice heavy duty mount that you could bolt to anything. You can see there are a few holes on the bottom. You could bolt this to your rig, bolt it to a desk, whatever, and it's going to hold the button box up there. This is one of the other products he has available. Another thing, I didn't actually order these toggle extensions is what he's calling them. You can see I have a couple bare, and I have a couple that have the extensions put on it. And Richard thought that I might enjoy them, so he sent them. And I'm going to tell you, I actually really like them. It really looks and feels like a real race car dash, and it made it easy to know what these 3 were versus these 2. Another way to have that tactile feedback to remember what your button layouts are going to do. So one thing I didn't mention, now that it's arrived and unwrapped and mounted, $275. It's $275 for this custom layout design. Makes it only about 10 bucks more than one of his pre-done ones, which if you have the imagination, probably makes it worth your while to pick it. Now, some people might just prefer one of the pre-done designs because, hey, he picked a good reason for putting everything there. So that about does it, at least gets it to this point. The next thing is getting it just all mapped, laid out. Along with an email came the file with a pre-done Sim Projects configuration. So once I downloaded the software for that portion of it, I dropped that profile in and everything was set up as far as the lights go. All the buttons needed to be mapped in-game. That's pretty straightforward. Anybody who's ever worked with any joystick button knows how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then when I come back, I'm going to tell you how it worked in-game, go over the pros, cons, and give it a final score.
Take your hobby to the next level with a quality racing rig that works great with a PS3, Xbox 360, and a PC. GT Omega Racing Simulator is compatible with a wide range of steering wheels, including Logitech, Fanatec, Thrustmaster, and more. The GT Omega is available now worldwide by going to www.gtomegaracing.com.
Welcome back to my review of the Layne Sim Products custom button and LED box. And you know, why don't we just get right into the pros and cons of things. The first pro is that it's just easier to use a button box than a keyboard. I mean, all these keys really represent things that I could do on my keyboard, but it's so hard to find your way around a keyboard. It's just much easier this way. Another pro that I've never had out of any button box is actually having the tack bar or LED or even lights for that matter anywhere on my button box. Maybe some of you have seen how hard I've been working on the Arduino box. That was just trying to achieve this there. And this is something I can just purchase and buy and be using right away. Another pro is the design is mine. Before it was even on its way, it's a layout that I picked for me for what I drive. And regardless of what your sim of choice is or what you need out of a button box or a light box, you can decide that for yourself, and that's very important. Another pro is the overall quality and construction of the box. In addition to the quality of the box and in addition to picking my layout you have some freedom of choice when it comes to colors. I picked the red background, which matches my R seat beautifully. They had a blue background, they had a black background. You can even pick the background of the colors of the switches here. So there are a lot of freedom in color, and that even makes it more cool. Another pro is the customer service that you get from Layne Sim Products. Like I said, those photos, the emails with the video, the pre-done profile for the Sim Products software. So that's all a bonus as well. And just a couple more things when it comes to the pros of this particular box. In addition to the quality of the box, they're high quality buttons, high quality switches. Another pro for me is that this works on one USB. So in the past I've used a button box in addition to Sim Products things. This is all in one USB, and that was a lighter load on my computer as well. Now let's talk about the cons, and I really don't have a lot to say on the cons. $275. It is a lot of money. I mean, you can get a decent wheel for $275. So this is a lot of money for an add-on. You could get a button box for as little as $40. And if you're into doing the Sim Projects lights, those are inexpensive, but it's totally DIY. And while we're talking about Sim Projects, that software interface can be a little tricky. So as I mentioned, I can change LEDs later, but it can be a little tricky to figure out exactly what every single setting in that software does. So as you can see, my pros far outweigh my cons when it comes to the Layne Sim Products light and button box, and therefore on the rev scale, it's very easy for me to give this a 10 out of 10. Now I do keep in mind, not everybody needs this kind of product. It is expensive, sure, but I talked earlier about the differences between using a keyboard and a button box, having that tactile difference, the switches being different, the color changes, having the buttons and the lights on the same box. There are so many goodies thrown into this that it just makes it a pleasure when I'm driving. When I'm driving and being able to see this tack bar light up out of the peripheral, when I can reach over and just feel this switch as easy as this, it makes it so nice. It makes it more realistic. It's more immersive. These are the things that I want when I'm buying new Sim products. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Layne Sim Products button box. And if you'd like to check them out for yourself by going to laynesp.com, and you can see the pre-done boxes or check out how to do your own custom box. I'm Sean Cole, and I'll see you on the track.